Hey everybody, I'm Kevin. I am on staff here at ICC, and I am with not only my friend, but many of you may not know or do know, my boss, Gwen Richard. And we want to do something a little different. Today's an experiment. At Immaculate Conception, we want to launch something called Getting to Know You at ICC. And we're going to start with our staff people. So I'm going to interview different people on our staffs, and we're going to release them every couple of days as to give you something to do during quarantine, and maybe you'll get to know some of our personalities and things we do. So y'all sit tight and watch us. We're going to talk like Gwen and I always do in the office, because we have so many fun talks. So hey Gwen, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty awesome. I've been out making a shed today. If you ask me how I'm passing quarantine time, and now I've got two boys out there doing it for me. So I'm enjoying some cool air condition right now. All right, Gwen, I want to start with, I'll start everybody with this. Tell me about you. Tell me about yourself and what you do at ICC, and then your history in the parish, like how long you've been here and all that stuff. So why don't you shoot?
Okay. So I am the Director of Religious Education for the Parish School of Religion. We have about 900, little more than 900 students in the parish school. So that takes up the bulk of my time. I have 4 people that help me in the Parish School of Religion. And my direct focus is confirmation and then overseeing the entire program. I also help with adult formation, and I am involved in other ministries, but they weren't technically my job. They're more volunteer ministries. I'm a cradle Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I live and grew up in a family of all Catholics. Both sides of my mother and father's family were, several generations of Catholics. And so, I didn't realize intellectually, I knew there were other faiths out there, but my lived experience was all Catholic. Like I said, through school, my friends were Catholic, to church, through organizations. I played softball with the Catholic Youth League. So everything I did revolved around the church. And so, those experiences come from that angle. And then Mike and I got married in 1982, and we moved to Denham Springs, and it was quite eye-opening experience, because now I was the minority. There were many other faiths, in Baton Rouge where I grew up, St. Anthony, Sacred Heart, St. Agnes, the cathedral, they were within miles of each other. You could leave one school and jog to the next one, and so it was just a huge shift to come out here, and there was one Catholic church. And I had, before I got married, I lived in the house I was born in. I worshiped in the church that I was baptized in. And so it was, I went to school at that same church till 8th grade, and then transferred to the Catholic high school, till I graduated. But it was just so hard to leave that really stable, low-hanging fruit of Catholics, and then come out here, and we didn't know anybody. The church was, the church that I grew up in, there was huge stained glass windows and marble altars, and it was gorgeous. And when Mike and I moved out here, the church that we have now was 2 years old, and the walls were really plain. And You know, the windows was clear glass. And so it was, in every way you can imagine, it was an adjustment. And I had a tough time. I was, you know, a new wife. You know, I went from mama's house to my own. So it's just, and not having that stability, you know, for my faith. As a 21-year-old, I did not have any idea how much I leaned on that until I didn't have it. And so, consequently, you know, we'd go to mass and I would feel alone in a sea of people. I felt alone and lonely. And I would say, you know, I'm going back to church at St. Anthony next week. And, you know, that went on for a while. And finally it was like, you know, both Mike and my mom is like, you got to face the facts that you know, you're part of a new community and you got to make the best of it. And so, my mom said, you know, the only way you're going to take ownership of the parish is to be involved and to put your heart into it, and it be your efforts and your parish. And, you know, again, that was just stuff that we did so naturally in the other parish because, you know, the school would assign us stuff and then we started doing it and then you kept doing it. You know, my parents were involved. My daddy was on the parish council. My mom did whatever they asked, you know. I mean, it was just it was something I never had to think about. And then I had to figure out how to do that myself when I didn't know anybody. And so eventually I got there. Renew came to our parish and Mike and I joined Renew. And we met some great people that we're really still friends with, at least one couple today. And, you know, then I started as a catechist. And that was the beginning of my finding my spot at Immaculate Conception.
So this is one of my favorite things about you is that you work at church, right? And what a lot of people don't know about you that I don't mind telling people because it won't affect your crown is how many things you do behind the scenes at our church. And you don't consider so much of that ministry. Like I know so many people that work at a church or something like that, they would be like, well, I don't need to tithe or I don't need to volunteer at ministry. I work there, I already give 40 hours. And you and I are people who see on the same page of, I'm not giving 40 hours to my church. They pay me for those 40 hours. And above or in addition to that, I need to have ministry. And like you're someone who's modeled that for me. So I think it's so interesting that like you're the most plugged in person I know. And so to hear your story of not being plugged in at all and just being totally isolated and all of that was solved essentially by you volunteering in ministry. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. Because when we moved out here, it was really before the huge influx of people into Livingston Parish. And it's kind of crazy. We moved out here because my brother and his wife had a piece of land that came to her through her family. And it was just a place for us to live rent-free to get started. And so otherwise, you know, we'd have stayed in Baton Rouge where we were both raised and comfortable. And so, you know, for economic reasons, we came out here and we knew no one. And neither of us had a real grasp for how that was going to affect us. Now, Mike, you know, there is no stranger in Mike's life. He did fine. But I am more, you know, although people may see me through my job as open and friendly or whatever, that takes work because my natural inclination is as a loner or to let you speak to me first, because, you know, who am I that you want to talk to me, you know? And so I had to really work on getting beyond that for my job. But as a young woman in a situation where I knew no one, it made it even harder. You know, because in high school, I was perfectly content to have my few little friends, and we were on the fringe. You know, I never aspired to be the popular cheerleader, whatever, you know, that I was really okay being behind the scenes. And so, but I never realized, you know, how that would affect you when you were just totally in a new place. It was hard.
It's funny. It's not funny. That's wrong. It brings me joy to hear you talk about this for so many reasons. One of the things that strikes me is I hear you talking about how you moved out here for necessity, for financial, economic reasons, right? So many people my age, Gwen, and younger than me, I hear them when it comes to ministry and church and faith and all these things, talk about their calling. You know, what is God calling me to? And I don't want to make fun of any of that. It's just, to me, it's like, hey, snap out of it. It's faith, hope, and love. Jump in, so on and so forth. And it's like, here you are. You're not called to Immaculate Conception, and the Holy Spirit didn't guide you to Denham Springs. It was the wallet, right? But because you had to do it, and then you're planted, and it's so much so grow where you're planted type mentality, right? Is what happened to you. It's not like y'all floated out here playing a harp on a cloud. It's like out here, and then God said, make the best of a situation. And here you are, what'd you say, 82? Or is that when you got married?
1918. Yeah, well, we got married, and you know, that's where we came back to from our honeymoon.
So we're almost coming up on you having 30 years in this parish. That's amazing. When you hear me say that,
no,
well, 82, 92, 02, 12, 40 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 40.
Holy cow. So 40 years in this parish. When you hear me say that, what comes to your mind?
Well, first I want to go back to when you said the grow where you plant it, because, you know, I'm a gardener, and, you know, I had this just mental image pop in of, you know, the tough, hard clay soil we have, you know, and I felt like that little struggling plant, you know, so trying to put out roots in that tough clay soil, and it wasn't working. I was shriveling up. And what made it eventually work was, you know, ministry. You know, that's like the good stuff that you add to the soil became the ministry and the other people. But you know, if you want to use that grow analogy, I was about to wither.
Wow.
And not that I ever considered leaving the faith. Because that wasn't the problem. The problem was I knew how good it could be, and it wasn't there anymore.
I just think about how many people you've seen confirmed. And I know, didn't you tell me that when you started being a catechist, what was it, kindergarten, first grade, something like that? What was it?
My first year was third grade, and then I bumped down and, you know, stayed in elementary, did a lot of grades until my daughter joined, you know, religious ed, and then made it through to where she'd have been in middle school, and the days of the week would have changed, and then I went to that day of the week. And I never taught her, but I always was in the same section she was in.
So you started out a baby plant. And what I love about that, see, I haven't told you this, I gave an RCA talk today, and, you know, normally in 1 week, they would be getting baptized or confirmed. And it's at that point, they are called neophytes. Mm-hmm. Today, I got a question, you know, what does neophyte mean? And I told him, I was like, well, neo means new, and the phyte comes from the Greek phuton, which is plant. You're a new plant. and
Mhm.
it's time to grow roots, right? So you went from being this neophyte, right? 4
Mhm.
years. I think about all the seeds you've planted, right? I think about I won't ever meet as many people as you've either seen to confirmation or guided along the way. And so you,
Mhm.
from the withering plant to a new plant to, I know God is ultimately the gardener, but like you're like
Mhm.
the Apollos and the Paul, right? You're planting the seed and watering the seed and all that. That's a pretty cool picture, Gwen.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, but you know, the thing is, as a lone isolated plant, I would have never made it, you know. And so that's super important as part of the story, you know. And then the other thing, that's just like church itself. Then, you know, I'm in Denham Springs and I get a knock, you know, on my door, and somebody wants to pray with me with the Bible, and they asked me, had I ever been saved? And it was like, you know, that terminology was foreign to me because, like I said, I grew up in this very insulated, very Catholic community family, you know, so that terminology would just, it didn't exist for me. And and so, you know, when they asked me had I been saved, you know, my heart said yes, but I couldn't articulate in a manner that they could understand, and or that to me even felt like I was making sense. And so it was very frustrating. And you know, and I was, I don't know, angry and disappointed at myself. I don't really remember exactly how I felt, other than the fact that I realized that I had never been asked to defend the faith, and I had never been asked to explain the faith to somebody who had zero common beliefs with me.
Mm.
And to start from scratch and explain the faith, I couldn't do it. And so, you know, that my personality wouldn't allow that. You know, you know, I showed myself up at church the next week and waited for the priest to finish, and you know, had a little conversation with him. And so, you know, he suggested classes at the diocese, and so I enrolled, and from there, it, you know, that's my lifelong love of adult education. You know, like I said, I grew up living the faith, I grew up practicing the faith. I went to Catholic school, but you know, I just didn't have what it took as an adult, to be able to articulate in the big wide world, you know, at work. And it's crazy, you know. My very first job was like a sales office with about 8 people, and either they were nothing or they were Catholic. And so again, my very first job, and I mean, I didn't plan that, I never even thought of that, but it was like, you know, that was the path God kept me on, protected me. I don't really know the purpose of it. Maybe it was just for me to have that stark encounter that would spur me to do what I needed to do. But it was just crazy when I looked back how I had been so just in that little cocoon of Catholic thinking, an incubator.
Um, this sounds like again another conversation you and I have a lot. So, would you say that when you went on the journey of adult education, not only did it equip you and teach you and train you to be able to communicate your faith far better, but would you say personally for you it deepened your faith?
Oh, yes. I mean, psychologically, there is, you know, doctors who have shown that there's in your mid 20s, you reach another level of mental or in spiritual maturity, just in nature. And see, I got married at 21, and so all of this is happening in my early 20s. And so, when I reached that, that time of the next step in spiritual maturity, I had begun this journey. So not only was, I reading and studying and learning, but, I was just on that what the human body God has designed us to do is in our mid-20s to have that, next level. And so, again, like, we talk about how, those of us who believe in the faith look at the world and say, there was a designer in this, there was a hand guiding all this. For me, I truly believe there was God was guiding that. Why did he have me in this little Catholic incubator, or a little hot house for the plant, or whatever? There was a purpose for it. And then when he opened that challenge up with these people who knocked on my door, then it was like, whoa, all out. And it was before I had a child, so I had time. So it was just the perfect little storm.
It sounds to me, it reminds me of a number of Father Frank's situations where he just mentions providence, right? That's
yeah.
All right, so Gwen, we are getting to know you. I've got some papers here.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a quarantine, shelter in place, whatever anybody wants to call it. And I want so much for this to be about getting to know you, but I also want to serve the practical purpose of passing time in quarantine. I don't want anybody to choke a significant other or a child, or, lose their mind during this. And so I sent you some questions that you have answered ahead of time. And the first one on my list is, would you share with us your favorite Catholic prayer? And then I think what I put is like one that's maybe very common, why, and then one maybe that's not so common. So what do you say to that?
Well, I guess I only read part of the question, because I only answered, no, I actually answered both. My favorite common prayer is, I love the Glory Be. I just, love the Glory Be in its simplicity that reminds me of the Trinity and also of eternity, and so I love the Glory Be. And then this prayer is common too, but I love St. Francis's prayer of peace. It speaks to me. I love St. Francis to start with, but, it speaks to me, not what, I get out of it, but what I can do for others, not how much people love me, but how much I love others, not how much, other people forgive my mistakes and bumbles and God forgives my sins, but how much I, can see the good in others and love others in spite of their failings. So that prayer has always spoken to me, because, the focus is not on what I want and need and what God can do for me, but it's helping me to look at what I'm called to do.
Awesome.
And so I like that
one. Those are two personal favorites of mine. All right, maybe not so spiritual. We'll go back and forth, but we need a time killer, Gwen. So I want you to throw out for me an older movie that you would suggest someone watch during the quarantine, like something that hasn't been in theaters in like 10 years. And then maybe give me one that you've seen like in the last year that someone could stream, like on Netflix or something like that.
All right. Well, this was kind of tough, because I'm not a big movie person, um, I came up with the Bad News Bears with way more than 10 years. And then Despicable Me, which I had to Google to find out if that was 10 years. And it was 2010. But I don't like horror. I don't like blood and guts. I don't like violence. I don't like chick flicks. I don't like to cry at movies. For me, if I'm going to go to the movie, I want to laugh. I want to be entertained. I don't even want to think. I don't want these highbrow ones that you got to read the subtitle. None of that. You're supposed to entertain me and make me laugh, which in today's culture leaves kids shows, So I love animated movies, and I loved this Despicable Me. I thought it was funny. I watched The Incredibles, the Disney movies. So for me, and then the Bad News Bears, it came out. I was a young teen when it came out, so that was like late 60s, early 70s. And I played softball all my life, and so it was just a movie that hit my sweet spot, and it was funny, and it was a feel-good story.
Awesome. All right, give me a newer one.
I couldn't even think. I saw Dr. Dolittle this year. It was the only movie I could remember seeing, and I Googled 2019 and the top 100 movies. I hadn't seen any of them. So I don't even know if I went to the movies in 2019. But Dr. Dolittle was different. It wasn't what I was expecting, but it was okay. But, I wouldn't say everybody go see Dr. Dolittle.
All right. Can you think of like a Catholic or a spiritual or a faith-based movie that you would recommend?
Our book club recently watched Heaven is for Real. And so that was pretty cute. It was good. The little boy was, the story was good. And the actors, pretty good.
All right. So I think my favorite thing that you did, I can't wait till you talk about this, is I had this grand plan for people to give us on-demand TV shows to watch. I'm like, all right, give us 3 TV series, blah, 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 blah. Could you please share with our parish what you wrote me and how there's everybody's attention. There's nothing more Gwen than what you're about to hear. Tell them what you told me.
Okay. So this is about the on-demand. Okay. So on TV, I watch sports and talk shows about sports. And so, even before the lockdown, I was rewatching the LSU football season, the magical season. I've seen every game at least twice. But, there are couples where I've seen it more than twice. And the clip of Clyde Edwards-Helaire jumping over the pile in Alabama and spiking the ball right in front of the referee, I probably watched that 100 times, and I laugh every time I see it. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen 3rd and 17 at Texas and watched Jefferson run that touchdown in. And so, for me, even in the lockdown, a couple nights ago, people have put together to music all the touchdowns or the great plays, or you can pull up Justin Jefferson and watch all his catches that they prepared for the combine. So I've just been watching all that stuff. And then I tell y'all, I didn't like to cry at movies, but I have cried a few times watching Joe Burrow's Heisman speech because it was very touching.
I cried too.
I watched it more than once. In fact, my husband will walk through and he'll say, "Really, you're watching that guy again?" And it's like, yep, there's nothing good on TV. And so that's like my TV is sports, and then is this where I talk about YouTube too?
Well, no, actually, I skipped one that
Okay.
I go back to. So now I want you to give everybody something to watch on form.org. And let me say something first. If y'all don't know, our friend Tammy Jackson, I'm sure we'll get to her. She makes me laugh. She calls form.org the Catholic Netflix. But it's not just movies and documentaries. There's Bible studies and adult formation and youth ministry. In fact, there's so much on there. And whether you realize it or not, our parish pays for that for you. And you can go to our website, and right there on the homepage, there's a little thing that says, click right here to watch form.org for free. And then you go and you enter your email address and all of that. And so it's a resource that we pay, not me personally, but the parish pays for all of our parishioners to have. So with that said, Gwen, give us a suggestion on form.org.
I really liked the Eucharist study with Dr. Brant Petrie. For those of people who know me and do Bible study with me, they know that Dr. Petrie is my favorite theologian. He's from New Orleans. He teaches and lives in New Orleans. He actually grew up down the bayou somewhere, Houma area. And he's just fantastic. And he taught seminarians for a long time, and they would film and record the classes, and you could buy the tapes. And so I listened to those. And then he came out with a series that called the Mass Readings Explained, and we'll go back to that and give you but anyway, he has a very good study on the Eucharist that is top notch. It's on 10 sessions, and probably, an hour to watch it, and there's questions to help you zero in on it. And so an hour or two for the questions. But in this time period that we're all looking for something to do, you couldn't spend your time any better.
And I love that, we're offering some entertainment and we're offering some faith formation. It's like, which one is it? Yes, it's both, clearly. All right, well, then you mentioned YouTube, Gwen. So give us your favorite thing to watch on YouTube, or a YouTube suggestion.
Okay, so I am the type of person, I love to learn new things. Sometimes I just want to learn it just to see if I can do it. And after I can do it, I'm ready to move on. And so I watch YouTube just to see all the how-tos, to learn how to do stuff. And so like, right now I'm watching about hydroponic gardening, and I have my husband drilling holes in a pipe to make me a little hydroponic test garden. And so, I watch craft videos on how to do techniques. I watch, it's all about the how-tos. And so it's, such a wide variety of things, because I have this I have some major hobbies, but this need to know, it's hard to explain, but this just need to know how to do it and if I can do it. And then for a lot of things, just doing it once is enough and I'm ready to move on. I just that curiosity, is always there. So, sometimes, like I said, it's just me and Mike in the house, and he'll walk through and it's like, what are you watching? Because it's something crazy. And it's like, oh, I don't know. I just kind of ended up in this little rabbit hole, and now they're making baseballs, or, they're showing you how to do this, and I'm just seeing how you do it, So, I don't know. That's what I do. You do.
Okay. I don't know what theologian or philosopher said it. Maybe you'll know. But a wise person once said, all great friendships are born out of that moment that one says, you too, I thought I was the only one. And one of the things that makes me so appreciative of our friendship is what I would call, what you were talking about, is just your insatiable curiosity. And one of the very few people in my life that makes me not feel weird for my curiosity. And because it's something that I love that we have in common, and you and I get our work done, and then we will also spend time talking about these YouTube dives. Now, I didn't want anybody to interview me in this, but have I ever told you what my guilty pleasure on YouTube is?
I don't think
And get ready to laugh. It's called Village Food Life. And it's these village mamas, like in India in the jungles, Gwen, making these massive meals for like the 45 little children every day, the daily meal. And it like shows them making it in, and then like each meal video is like 6 minutes. And it's like, I'm telling you, every time I get a notification, timeout commercial. If you haven't subscribed to the church's YouTube channel, please go do that right after this. So every time I get a subscription notice on YouTube, hey, you got a new video. I'm all about Father Mike Schmitz. I'm all about Bishop Barrett. But man, I stop everything and I watch that Village Food Life every time. Like I'm going to ever be in the jungle with a bunch of older Indian ladies needing to cook for some children. But if I am, I'm prepared. Okay. All right. So next. Another thing that you and I have in common is you and I have what I would call a book problem. Okay. So give me a couple of suggestions. Like I would like a spiritual or, faith or Catholic based option for a book or a series. And then an entertaining one if you have one. I don't know if you do have one because you and I always talk about Catholic books. So I think what I wrote down is like Stranded on a Deserted Island or something like that. You got
for the Catholic books, there's two that I would say The Lamb's Supper by Scott Hahn came to me in that time period in my 20s when I was in that beginning studying phase. And so it was a book that hit at the perfect time. And then The Jewish Roots of the Eucharist by Dr. Petrie is the second one. And again, it's just one of those ones that it just was the perfect book at the perfect time that I wanted to read in my life. It was right after I had began learning a whole lot about typology, Old and New Testaments, and how to figure that out. And he has, it's either in that book or it's in a tape that I was listening like while simultaneously reading this book. But he talks about how he was reading about the tabernacle in the desert and the things inside the Holy of Holies, and all of a sudden it occurred to him that the lampstand and the things inside the Holy of Holies each correlated to the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, the mercy seat, the Father, the bread of the presence to the Son, and the lampstand to the Holy Spirit. And he was just blown away that he had, this revelation. And, and then he, it must have been a tape, because I remember he chuckles and he said, and then I read Augustine and realized that 1,500 years before me, somebody else had the same revelation, And so, but I mean, it was just really powerful imagery for typology. And so it's like I said, I was listening to the tape and reading the book, and it just stuck with me. So those are my two favorite Catholic books. I really, really had a tough time narrowing down a secular book. And, I think I will go back to Where the Red Fern Grows with the emotions of, because I love animals and just, you know, the powerful emotion of that book. I think that would be my favorite secular book.
So I would just want to make sure I understand you. You don't like crying at movies, but you'll bawl your eyes out reading a book.
Yeah, that is a tearjerker.
Listen, everyone, if you're sitting at home during the quarantine and you're fighting depression, or you just need a good release and you feel like, man, if I could, do you ever feel that way? If I could just cry, Redfern Grows, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Look, we've had, time is flying here. So I got two final questions for you. Okay. All right. So second to last question is your favorite Bible person or the one you identify with most, and why?
Peter, because Peter is impulsive. He speaks before he thinks. He sticks his foot in his mouth. His heart's in the right place. You know, he jumps out the boat and walks to Jesus. Just so much of what Peter does, I can see myself there, because I'm impulsive. I have been known to speak before I think. But I can honestly say in all interactions, my heart is in the right place. I'm trying. I might mess up, but I'm trying to do the right thing. I might say the wrong thing, or you might take it the wrong way, but you know, it's really, you know, it'll catch me, because I speak before I weigh the options or who the audience is or whatever. So Peter is definitely the one.
Wow. So thinking or speaking before you think and putting your foot in your mouth. I'm sorry. I wish I could identify with you there. Do y'all see her laughing at me? Let me tell you what that laugh was. The laugh is everything that Gwen just said about herself. I guess is things that she was doing a decade ago, because I don't ever witness them. And she has helped me do those much less in my life. So that's why I thought that was funny. All right, Gwen, last question. And I don't know the answer to this, so I am so looking forward to hearing this. All right. If you could canonize any person for sainthood, like right now, they're saying the Pope says yes, living or dead. Look, let's get crazy. It could be a real person, a fictional person. I don't care. I want to know who should be a saint as far as you're concerned.
In my personal life, it would be my mother. And, you know, for people that's like more popular and everybody knows, I don't know. That one's a tough one, because, you know.
Then tell me why your mama.
Okay, because so she was born the year of the Great Depression, and, you know, lived a tough life. Her father died when she was 3 years old, and she was the baby of 9. And like I said, this is, you know, the height of the Great Depression. And so they lived on a farm in South Louisiana. And, you know, to keep the family together, her brothers, you know, 3 of them left and went to Kentucky and became grooms and trainers for the racehorse industry, and they lived in the stable with the horses and sent their money home to the family. And her 15-year-old brother took over the farm, and, you know, and all of the children under, they all had their jobs and their things they had to do to keep family working and together. And so this was her formative years, and it made her very strong, very resolute, but her faith in God was unshakable. and through all the ups and downs of life, she believed, you know, that even all that her family went through, you know, she would say how good a life it was, how much they loved each other, how her brother that was 15 years old when her dad died, he became her father. And I mean, they were rock solid close till the day she died. And so all of those things to her were not bad things. They were good things. And they made who she was, you know, she knew they made her who she was. And she knew that their family, they never had anybody that this one didn't talk to that one because of something trivial. They knew what real hardship was, and they learned to pull together and not apart. And so, yeah, she had her faults, but the good far outweighed the bad. And when you look to a model of strength and integrity, I never had to look farther than her.
What was your mom's name, Gwen?
Anna.
All right. So I say, Saint Anna, pray for us. I never got the honor of meeting her, but I feel like I know her pretty well.
Yes.
I know someone a lot like her.
Yes.
Well, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say really quick, like you talked about what we're doing to stay busy. So I have been reading books and picking stuff for the coming year for Adult Ed. I took all the plants home from the Faith Formation Center, and I've been repotting and giving them some TLC. Planted a spring garden. I've been walking, resting, taking time for myself. I've been contacting family and friends. But most of all, what I really wanted to say was there's a book by Father Michael Gately called Consoling the Heart of Jesus, and he calls it a do-it-yourself retreat. And so I've decided that this lockdown, I'm doing a do-it-yourself retreat. That this time is about you know, physical, spiritual, and mental renewal. It's about rest and taking care of myself, and you know, getting everything all lined up so that when we can go back to work, it's with, you know, fresh energy and spirit and ready to rock and roll.
I was just writing that down, Gwen. What I'm going to do when we post this on YouTube, everyone, I will post 3 links in the notes that you can click and learn more about the Dr. Petrie book, the Dr. Hahn book, and the Consoling the Heart of Jesus. So
also put the stuff about the mass readings explained.
Ooh.
We never got back to that.
We're going to have to do a whole separate 2-hour video on mass readings explained.
Okay, we can talk again, because
yeah, that's the beauty of Zoom, is I can just record like all of our daily talks and then everything. Okay, so hey, Gwen, it goes without saying to say thank you, not only for hanging out today. I mean, thank you for everything that you do for me. Thank you for everything you do for our parish. And I hope that this was just a little bitty window and a lot more people get to know the Gwen that I get to work with every day, and just appreciate getting to know ICC. That's what. All right.
So this is my home office. This is the Brain Trust, and look, I sit right next to. Can you see?
Look at that handsome guy.
So we share an office. Good thing, bad thing.
He even hear us. It's fine.
I know. He doesn't hear anything. I can say whatever I want, and he doesn't hear.
All right. Well, look. In your honor, do you mind if I close us and we say a glory be?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. In the name of the Father,
and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. All right, friend. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for everything.
Bye.
Bye-bye.